So tell me when to start.
Right. Because, yes, that part.
Yeah.
Tell me when.
I'm more from the hood than they are.
To say when.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
The hood of your car.
No, I live in between two railroad tracks. At one end of my block is a church. The other
I hope
one
you
is a strip
gathering
club.
this. I hope you gathering this footage. I hope you gathering this footage.
Yes, and I live on MLK. How much blacker do you get than that? I live on MLK. Grew up on MLK.
So do them people that live in $1 million condo.
Because we being recorded. I'm not gonna say what I was
I'm ready.
going to say.
Action.
So ladies, I'm super excited about this meeting because we have a lot to go over. Like so much has been happening since the last time we met, and this month is like really packed with a lot. So I'm just super excited that all of you was able to make it to go over all of this, because we really need to brainstorm on how we continue to make the impact that we want to make. And all of this, as you know, is about making an impact. So one of the things I want to talk about is the cleanup. So as you know, we do those 4 times a year. And what I'm finding is that the need in the community is greater than it ever has been. I guess a little bit of that is hurricane. A little bit of that is code enforcement must be riding around more. A little bit of that is people are being disturbed because they want their real estate, the asset. So people contact them and tell them the house not worth much or whatever. But it's happening more, and we have more people asking for assistance. Like before I can go out and say, I used to go say, oh, can you give me some names? Can you give me some recommendations? People are calling asking, I need help with cleanup. I need help. I got a disabled blind senior, like stuff like that. And so it's more of them. So I want to brainstorm on more partnerships, more opportunities to do more of those, whether it's implementing programs, because I believe in implementation. So finding ways to do more programs, finding other ways, maybe other people to partner with, something to assist. So I'll start with the cleanups. That's one of the biggest needs. And that's important because these seniors have worked and lived in those homes 30, 40, 50, 60 years plus, and they've never really probably needed help before. So it's hard for them to actually ask somebody for assistance. And even when the neighborhood leaders recommend these people, a lot of them were they had pride of ownership. They took care of their homes, but children are away. Life happens. Nobody's there to really help them through that. Or they have young people that live in the house that don't care about landscaping or code enforcement fines. They're not paying attention. So what can we do? Like ways to, can you think of partnerships or things we can do to try to enhance the program itself, or to do more and then have partnerships or maybe some collaborations to do that.
But I do think you need to take one moment and just, for your organization, to give yourself a pat on the back, because when you take a look at everything that you've done thus far, when we're looking at the impact of about 65 houses to date and $100,000 in the labor actually paid out, and it was about 6,000 or 10,000 volunteer hours. So that's phenomenal, because
I appreciate it.
Leading
well,
up
we did it
to this. So
and to be able to have the volunteers that, okay, I will come the day before to make sure when the core group of volunteers, it is not as completely daunting to have the volunteers who are so committed. So, okay, the day before or the couple of weeks before, we're going to, at least bring it up to the front. And still, that's a whole day's work once we have all that pre-rep. So to have the volunteers, which are, just regular people, you have drawn from USF and gotten some young students there who are just super excited, to the firefighters, Chief Tripp, kudos to her to instill in the folks, our first responders, to, what was that one gentleman who got on the roof and put the tarp up?
Mr. Capitano, I think his name was.
Yes, just volunteer picking up trash, noticed that that there was a leak. Again, that's how bad it was. You can see it from outside. And so he's got a tarp in the car and just got on the lady's roof and helped them out. So, yeah, I just really appreciate, because the motivation has to come from as leadership, which is from the top. Because there's so many people who think, what can I do? What can I do? but to be able to give them a process, because again, Keela, and with the center, and thank you to her board for approving this, we're able to make sure that every house, and I'm sorry, I just love this part, had their own cooler to water and fruits to keep them, to keep them hydrated and snacks. But that's the level of organization. So as you are taking your time and sweat equity to help the community, she made sure it wasn't just, going to check a box to get this house done. Every person who gave time had something all day to keep them hydrated. And, not the bad for you snacks. She had oranges, she had apples, she had bananas for all of them.
She did.
So thank you for that. Because that's what keeps, the volunteers keep coming. And keep coming to hard work. The gentleman in which the mayor came, that was a hard luck case. But to be able to see that the mayor saw what you were doing, to be able to take time on her schedule on a Saturday to come out to that gentleman, that was huge. So
Living on the front porch.
oh, sorry, that part.
He lived on the front porch.
So
Mr. Jack, that's what I call
Mr.
him.
Jack, yes.
Jack.
But he was grateful. He was absolutely grateful. So we will continue with the leadership of your board of directors and you at the helm. We will only continue to make life better. And I think the other part of why your vision is so important, and what rings with me, is when you said that the kids are away, because we have so many seniors, but a lot of them, there's nothing for them to move back here for. There's not any place for them to live. And through your vision and actually going to these property owners, we are creating various options for them. And I know I've spoken to I'm third generation from Tampa. I'm lucky I can live with my aunts in the neighborhood, but there's not a lot of options. There's not really nice apartments. We've been fighting for a grocery store for forever, but to get a grocery store in East Tampa, you gotta have heads. And I think that people will be so thrilled for the details of all you're about to roll out.
Yeah, I agree. That cleanup is just special, though. I had 7 grandparents, so I was able to see life for all of them. I was young when my great grandmother, the one that died at 112. When I was born, she was already 70. She was already 70, and so she was a young 70. But I got to see her. I was her caregiver. I was my grandmother's caregiver. I was my great-grandmother's caregiver, and then my mom's caregiver. And so I saw how life happens. You get busy. You got to work. You got to do this. You got to do that. I was fortunate. I didn't have to do that. But there's a lot of seniors in East Tampa. It was at one time 70-75% senior. And that's a lot of people that live in these homes that's blighted. And the conditions in some of these homes, I can't even bring an official to, because they don't have water. They don't have power. They don't have, the conditions are horrible. And you don't know how to provide. So you go call social workers, or you go call people that can help them on the back end. But I can't bring a team there because the conditions, we don't go in the home, but when they open the doors, or they'll tell you, oh, I don't have running water. Or when you call around, you'll see that they don't have running water or lights. I just wanted to, as I saw the needs increase, I really wanted to figure out a way to do more.
Well, the one person that you got a refrigerator for her because she couldn't keep her meds cool.
Yeah, he could not keep, they couldn't keep the meds cool. And thank God for partnerships with not only the volunteers, but Tampa Bay Federal Credit Union purchased the refrigerator, because they couldn't imagine. Thankfully, they were there. You can't really tell all these stories, but these volunteers, they capture it, they remember, and the credit union saw fit to go get that refrigerator for that family. Thank God for Suncoast Federal Credit Union and TICO. Those are the 3 main core partners that we have. Tampa General has stepped up to see what they can do to assist in that. And so I just want to figure out ways to do more in the cleanup, because we incorporated the fresh produce to each one of their homes. I love that, where they don't have to go to the store. They can have fresh access to fresh produce
Correct.
right at their house if they do have electricity and they still cook. But you have access to fresh produce from the store as if they were out grocery shopping. So I thank God for that partnership with Kelly as well. So I guess we can just continue in.
Well, maybe one of the things is during the 29th that you actually put out a call specifically, like to the points that Allison was bringing up and you're bringing up. Maybe it's very specific in the program that there's a call that this is what's been done, but you can address based on you understanding that the need is there, that more needs to be done, and this is the specific call. And then anyone who's there who knows someone who can partner or be involved. And that could be part of those QR codes that we have for them to scan and I'll give you a lead, give the team a lead.
Love it. So I do the QR code for the cleanups for help, sponsors, partners, volunteers.
Add that on.
Yeah, so then the other thing is the financial
No, Keila, I was going to say, as the vice chair of the board, I think it will be an easy shift and question to ask and put that call out there for the group. With your amazing leadership, you've provided resources for our community, affordable housing, as well as training. So I think that's something very important to also make important in this conversation.
Perfect.
Because I
Thank
do
you.
appreciate that you do have board members at the Center for Economic Development that show up and volunteer, that cut trees, tree trimming, who put together wheelchair ramps. So there's so many board of directors that are just like, oh, a great job, we need a report. No, your board roll up their sleeves and get out there too. So kudos to being able to bring people to your leadership who pay attention.
I didn't bring them. Let me tell you something. I don't care what nobody say. My mouth horrible, and it gets real disrespectful sometimes. But God really did. He knows who. He knows why. He knows the what, and He moved on all of their hearts to come to do. Because you can't even convince people to do this kind of work. Like this is not something. There's no fame, no nothing in coming to serve, but just to look at what happens. I think they see. When these seniors see all socioeconomic statuses, you see elected officials, you see firefighters, you see young, you see old. We have all generations out there assisting. When they look out and see these people showed up for you, just for you, you came for me.
Yes.
I think they love what they see, and I think the volunteers have a greater appreciation for what's being done because they get to interact. Those people come sit outside and watch and talk and try to help, and it's an exchange, and I think that's what draws them there. And then, like I said, God sent every single individual to participate in these cleanups. So I don't even know what I did to deserve the team that shows up on the board or that shows up to volunteer, but I am I'm thankful for that. Now, the financial literacy. Just like the cleanup, as we're out there doing the cleanup, we're out here, once a month now. I'm going to this church to share resources with the church. Like the people want the information, they didn't have access to the information. But in addition, I'm talking to seniors, I'm talking to different people, and I'm finding financial literacy is just not available. So this year alone, we're in April. This year alone, I was able to assist families saving from $600 a month to $900 a month because they didn't know what debt freedom was. They didn't know that they were paying the interest rate from the original mortgage when they bought the house 15 years ago. So when the rates were 2%, they didn't know that you could take advantage of that. They didn't know that even though the rates are high now, you paid $195,000 for the house. Today you owe $40,000. If you're struggling to pay a mortgage on $195,000, you should be paying a mortgage on $40,000. And by the way, how much is that car payment? How much credit card debt you have? Let me see. So you paying how much?
Yes.
What if I told you we're gonna call this bank, Suncoast and Tampa Bay, both they're apart because I know what they can do for people in the community. So we were able to get them on the phone several times and save a family $600 a month. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot
And no
of
other
money.
bill other than your car, and of course electric and gas and all that. But no other bills came out of your money, you save $600 a month. Car payment, no, I mean, they had 2 cars. Now you have no car payment and you save $600 a month. Another one was $900. Another one, you had a home that was worth about $500,000 and you trying to pay bills, trying to figure out how you're going to pay for repairs, trying to figure out how, like, real easy. We're going to pay off your debt once again, pay off everything you have, take $100,000 and you still you're paying a fraction, half of what you were paying already. And then another one, and then another one, and then another one. I owe $20,000, but I'm sure those conversations, it is embarrassing that people don't know the benefit. Like, you have a home that has equity in it. There's no reason for you to be struggling. Because I'm looking at the financial picture. Your bank should be telling you that. Who are you banking with? Who are you talking to on a day-to-day? So thankfully these conversations came up, and I am just outraged that there's not enough of these conversations in churches. No pun intended on these pastors, but you have a responsibility for that flock. You should be educating people. You should be offering them workshops. They should know that your home, just because you have overgrowth and a roof issue, does not take away the bulk of the value on this home. Let me show you what this valuation look like. Yep. Let me show you why you don't just sell your home. You talk to 3 professionals before you sell. You don't need to sell. Where you gonna go when you sell? When you get this money, where you gonna go? Like, those conversations need to happen. So I don't know how to get more of that out. Thank God the city of Tampa is coming out this month because it's financial literacy month. So they're going to come out while we talk through that with the banks and credit unions. They're going to come out and talk about owner-occupied rehab. They're going to come out and talk about the roof repair that they have, and, you know, some of the programs that they have that could assist. But then I want to see if I can get churches to talk about it more, because this is happening in a marginalized community only. Only in a marginalized community am I seeing people not understand that they can take advantage of their equity. It's yours. It's yours. It is yours. And you don't even know you have a home where you can take advantage of the equity, and it will save you, bail you out your financial situation. It's happened too many times in 2025. Last year, I thought I was, people would understand, you're getting the word out. But even now, people are struggling and they have equity. Now, I don't want to run it all the way up. You know what I mean? But I do want you to be able to take advantage of it where you don't have any other responsibilities except for that mortgage. Because 9 times out of 10, if you struggle with the mortgage, they can work out a situation. You struggle with that car, they coming to get it. You struggle with you see what I'm saying? So I want you to have the least amount of pressure when it comes to your finances. And on a mortgage, you typically can make that payment when it's really affordable. It's less than a car payment. It was less than a car payment. Like, who's doing this in the community? It's got to be somebody else, because I'm sure I'm not reaching all of them.
Well, culturally, we don't have those conversations.
Right.
So seeing, and there's not a plethora of people that are having those conversations. So maybe one of the things that needs to be looked at is amplifying your voice so that other folks can come on that are financially savvy and some type of training, and you can expand your reach. And so amplifying your voice by doing more videos, putting more things on YouTube, doing more Facebook Lives, but then making also a call out to volunteers who have that financial background, because there's multiple individuals that have the education, they're just not giving back, or they're not realizing, because I think when you work in that space, you don't realize that there's a need. So I think amplifying your voice and making the ask of creating a team, because there's only so much, and I'm sure your board will agree, and your team will agree, they don't want you to have to do everything so that you're worn down or burnt out, because there's so many levels to what you're doing, specifically with the affordable housing, which is one of the biggest challenges here.
Yeah.
So that could be something that happens where additional financial professionals can support and make it a faith-based initiative. I know Allison was talking about that at one point, and create a faith-based initiative in partnership that could be something to look at, that the center is behind. And I think some of your sponsors may want to see that happen and get involved, support it.
I think that's another call out for this event on the 29th, is to call the community out for whatever your specialty is, whatever that is. I think it's important for you to get involved, whichever way you can get involved.
And telling them why.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you are well equipped with the folks that are surrounding you to do that, because a lot of times people say, well, why should I? And you're, like you said, you're surrounded by people, Allison, who's giving from her heart. You have board members here, you have team, you have so many volunteers. So you need to spell out why is it important. Mm-hmm. You know, and that might be a conversation, but it needs to be brought up, because there are a lot of folks who may have gotten a little comfortable, and why should I have to give back? Why do I need to pay it forward?
Because I think it always comes back to that financial literacy conversation. Because generationally, we're taught to save, but we're taught to save to pay bills. You know, if in case you're going to have buy something, save to be able to pay it off. But a real missing piece, I think, is as you get older and you stop working and stop being able to work, how are you going to supplement that retirement? You know, so maybe you should have, you know, invested, although nowadays can't really understand which way the market's going to go. But we need to try to break a cycle and start talking to the youth, because I also think, and I know you've run into this as a realtor, the youth who don't want to own homes anymore, because they see homes as work. We got to keep the yard, we got to maintenance. They don't see what you just explained. That's a tool for financial freedom, because you own an asset. Mm-hmm. And to be able to have the conversation of how is that an asset? You know, how do you utilize this to take the pressure off your back with something that you worked hard for? That is, I think, is critical, especially as we are looking to redevelop and change the landscape of East Tampa, my home. It's just, because I know Keela's home is a little bit of everywhere in Tampa. You know, you had grandparents in Port Tampa, you had folks in East Tampa, you had another set of grandparents in West Tampa. So you were also able to see how they were teaching, because the Tampa is a melting pot. We are not homogenous, all one, you know, Tampanians. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you also bring to your communication to these folks, is you know how West Tampa people talk to each other and have their anticipation of what the responses be, which is absolutely different from Port Tampa. Mm-hmm. Same general location, but completely different. And you bring that to your communication style as you are making sure we're protecting folks, the youth for financial literacy, the seniors with the volunteers, and then, you know, your development.
Yeah, it's, the need is, I'm telling you, the need is great. One of the things, though, for 426, there is a workshop. And the workshop is Financial Literacy Month. And we got all the financial literacy pieces down. But one of the things that I documented when I was at the bank inside the financial institution was the reasons, the top 5 reasons we were finding so many people in these situations financially. And it happens all the time. Like when 2008 happened, that crisis happened, that was like crisis number 47, COVID 48. There's always going to be a cycle of things that happens. And so one of the things I documented is that as I look at what's happening now in the United States, there's a lot of uncertainty, and rightfully so. And so the loss of income was one of the reasons, which is an obvious reason why many people lost their home. And at that time, it was catastrophic illness, it was death. And so we talk big about asset protection. One of the things that's not discussed enough now, and Lena, this is a last minute for you, I would like to incorporate a conversation about entrepreneurship while you own these jobs. because you need a second income. You need multiple layers or avenues or streams, whatever you want to call it, but you need multiple of income. So I don't know
That side hustle, baby.
if you could really like take about 30 minutes in this 426 workshop and talk about that, because I think that people need to be told that. People need to know
Absolutely.
that with this income, it doesn't mean you got to work 5 jobs. I know women right now working 3 jobs and their children trying to learn how to work. But entrepreneurship or some type of a side hustle, if you want to, whatever that is, figure it out, because it just may take you off that job. You just may make enough money in this economy that you don't even need any of those jobs, and you build something completely different. So I want to add that in that conversation, because when I look at this stuff, I look at it as a whole to really make an impact. I don't want to do workshops just to be talking to myself. I know the information is needed, but I want to make sure it's information that somebody can actually grab and grow. Grab, grow, scale, whatever they need to do. I want them to be able to be able to do that. So if you could look at your calendar for 426, I want to add that in the conversation. Tampa Bay Federal Credit Union, I think, is the host of that workshop, and Suncoast is going to be a part of it. And so I want to work through the timeline to include a conversation about that for 426 to incorporate that. And then 429. 429 is the big one. Like, they get to see it all. Like, they get to see everything that we've been doing. And one of the things I don't want it to be is focusing on me or what the center does. We will, but those families that has held on to these parcels for some 20, 30, 40, 50, 75 years, next generation, holding on to their parents' property, and then being able to develop something significant there that will provide a solution to the biggest problem we have in Tampa, affordable housing. That's huge for me. Like, all of that, I want them to literally stand on their feet and give them a round of applause for holding on. Because most people would have lost it by now. Like, you don't, no assistance from the city, nothing from their CRA. They held on, code enforcement, they held on being called a nuisance, they held on being threatened, they held on all those years. They need a standing ovation for just holding on, because that does not happen for Black people. And I think about Madam Fortune Taylor. That woman had all Hyde Park real estate. Somehow, the mayor at that time became a developer when he took her property. And all we have left is a bridge somebody had to beg to put her name on. That's it. A bridge. So what was that exchange? That woman's property is all left is a bridge? Then I think about in Miami, Fisher Island was owned by an African American man. He sold it, I'm sure, for a nominal price, and now it's Fisher Island, which is one of the most, only the affluent can live on Fisher Island, but it was Black owned. I think about Tampa Park, built by Black people, for Black people, and the city didn't offer them any assistance. They let that property go down in terms of the conditions. So HUD removed their funding, so the people couldn't hold on to it. They couldn't manage it, they couldn't maintenance it, they couldn't do anything. They lost it to a developer that is now building luxury.
Yes.
No affordable, if you will. Some, but that's not his fault, because the city should have done what was necessary to help that family keep that property. So I want them to I'm talking about a crazy standing ovation, because they held on, for holding on. They need that, because that does not happen. Tampa has not been good to African American people when it comes to their real estate. I'm looking at the pressure they apply. They were not supposed to be able to hold on to those parcels. That's why something significant has to happen with each and every one of them. So that, and then making sure the messaging is there, the why we're doing this, and then that utilization plan. In it, I want them to know, not so much just the utilization, but I want them to know the commitment that's going into making sure that not only is these sites owned by African people of color, it's also going to be developed and built by minority participants, MWBE, minority suppliers, subcontractors, small business owners, children will be a part of it. In terms of Lena Bean Academy students, my camp kids, they're going to be a part of it. Tampa Bay Tech Architectural Program is going to be a part of it. All of that is going into this. That's the commitment to seeing us succeed. The commitment in seeing us grow, seeing us thrive. We can do this too. That's the messaging. And I wanted to be very, very clear to everybody in that room why this is all so important. Because historically, we don't see that like on a project. You're just not looking at all of that.
Well, I think we can hone in on, based on what you're saying, on 4 pillars, if you would say, where we talk about workforce opportunities, economic opportunities, community and social impact, and then the legacy of it all, which I believe that's the portion that you're very much were speaking at the beginning about honoring the families. So if we continue to build out in that fashion, then we'll be able to support you in delivering that message. And you'll be able to talk about the workforce opportunity, right? Creating the jobs. And you'll be able to talk about the economic opportunity, which is the contracts. And then the community opportunity, that's the youth, the educational components, everything down the line that you're speaking of, the revitalization. And then at the end, there's the legacy. That's what we are missing culturally. We don't keep our legacy. Like Alexander, you were talking about 3rd generation, right? So that's something to be proud of. So that's culturally what we're missing a lot. So you holding on to that legacy, and that's what end with honoring the legacy. And so maybe if we can concentrate on those 4 pillars, we talked about them loosely, but really talking about those 4 pillars within the development, because you have the pillars just for the center that you're going through, and you have the call outs that people are very specific. But when you talk about this snapshot, this moment, and when you quantify those 10 acres, right, and you quantify those 11 projects and the legacy that comes with them, and by them holding on, the impact that's going to make by showing other families that have given up.
Yes.
That it's not easy, but what it can look like. And I think another thing to talk about, Allison, if we can, is even though there is this rash decision to sunset the CRAs, there's still going to be other opportunities to find, funding to do the things that need to happen. So to continue on, you can't let that be something that puts pressure to sell, because that's what it, you know what I'm saying? The only thing that there's going to be no more of is land.
Yes.
Right.
That's why it's so, the dirt is so precious. So you can call it blighted, you can call it whatever you want. Somebody wants the land.
Yes.
They want the land. And we have historically not understood that. I've had conversations with people say, oh, my taxes is going up, I'm gonna sell. That is the craziest thing ever. That means that something good is coming, or we don't understand politically how to look into the economic projections for what's going on in an area. The things that have happened in Tampa have been planned for, in St. Pete, number one.
Yes.
Talk about St. Pete. We're planned for years. Tampa, planned for years. And that's why I feel so honored that you all are allowing me to work with you on this, because I missed seeing my city demolished. I came back and did not recognize it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
So the fact that you can help these families with 10 acres, and you have a small but mighty team that you're doing this, I mean, it's amazing. So I think that's what has to go into what you're saying and being deliberate, and also allowing your team to support you in the delivery of that evening. So it's not just you, allowing your board, allowing your team, not-for-profit consultant, you know what I'm saying, to be able to support you and telling and also making the ask. So it's not always just you making the ask, because you're always out in the forefront, but allowing your team to support you and make these asks. Like if we lay it all out and we can assist you in making the ask, right? Because you have been taking the lead, kind of like the warrior taking the lead, but allow this to be a moment where your team, your board, folks who have been by your side since you started, created the organization with you, you know what I'm saying? To help take that pressure so you're not just asking.
And that's why I'm so happy about the call out, because again, we've had the center board, rather than Keila having to always have to ask, her board saw the places where they needed to be filled. You know, they saw at the housing events you had at the Civic Center. I mean, they did a round robin at the sign-in table. And to the point where, you know, we had so many there at one point, they're like, we want to help. But that you're bringing out, let's do a call to action. I think that's now is the time to put the call to action out.
So with that, how do you think we should lay out the night?
Well, we've talked loosely about it, but if we're covering everything with those 4 pillars, right? Mm-hmm. Economic, workforce, community and social impact, and then the legacy piece, then from 6 to 6:30 is the networking, right? And then moving it from 6:30, we get everyone seated. We already know, Allison already knows she's gonna get everybody in, housekeeping rules, so that they understand how the night is going. We have the video introduce you and telling the story, because I think the also very impactful thing that has to happen is to understand what background that you have of why you are so savvy to make some of these decisions. So that's why that's so important, the financial, the real estate background. So that's what's going to be in the video. And then at that point, we also talked about, and we have to determine, I think Allison, we talked about acknowledging board members and elected officials and
Other dignitaries.
Before the video.
And sponsors. So we talked about that. We talked about that happening when Allison is kind of bringing and to, hey, we want to take a moment to acknowledge elected officials, dignitaries, board members, and sponsors. So however that flows, that was the notes that were made. So however you all think that should flow, right? And the housekeeping rules.
Because I definitely agree with that portion, because acknowledgement get the political and the other dignitaries acknowledged, but it keeps the focus on what the center wants the focus to be on, and that's the families. So it doesn't become a political,
Yeah, they ain't talking.
Yes.
It's jazzed out.
Yeah, so Allison is absolutely to keep that all intact for us and run that. So then there's going to be your video. That video is telling the story. So after the video, then you'll be able to come and speak about in any more detail that you want to. Now, some of the things then are the call out. So, addressing the signature programs and so forth. So the call out to having people, that's something that needs to be decided at the top or the bottom of the program, but it has to be the call out.
Yeah, I think that maybe the bottom, so people leave with a purpose.
Yes.
And because they're already going to be excited about the projects. So besides the projects, they'll now have how do we participate in the projects? How do we participate in the other? How do we make a difference? And I think to be able to have them leave with how I can make a difference is different than I'm just ready to get out of here or been here and listen to information. To be able to give them away, especially as crazy as the world is, it's hard to find your place in how to make it better.
Okay, perfect.
So
I'm just